Hi guys, so today I have my May reading wrap up for you. This will be going up on the 31st purely because the book that I'm currently reading I know I won't be finished by tonight, so I thought I might as well get this uploaded instead of waiting like a whole other week to get my wrap up done. So in May I read 11 books, so yeah, let's just get on with it. The first two books I read were part of a series, and that's 10 Ways to be Adored When Landing a Lord and 11 Scandals to Start to Win a Duke's Heart, both by Sarah MacLean, and they are books 2 and 3 in the Love by Numbers series. I read book 1 in the series last month, really enjoyed it. They're really light, really cute, fun Regency romance reads that I really enjoyed, and Sarah MacLean is becoming one of my favourite Regency authors. I'm really enjoying her books, and in May I kind of went through this for like the whole month really of not knowing what I wanted to read, and it was very frustrating. But yeah, I gave both of those 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Of Poseidon by Anna Banks and Of Triton by Anna Banks. I read Of Poseidon, really enjoyed it, and then the way it ended I had to pick up this second book straight away. They were very fast reads, really enjoyed them, really liked the whole mythology and lore around the Sirena, or I'm not quite sure how you pronounce it. I have the third book ready to go, and I think I will probably be picking it up soon because I really enjoyed these 2 books and kind of want to finish a trilogy. But yeah, loved the covers for these. I just loved everything about them. Really enjoyed that. My hay fever is really bad today, so I really sorry about that. Like, my eyes are streaming, my nose is streaming, and that was just like too much information for all of you, I'm sure. Then I read another 2 Regency books. I read The Scoundrel's Seduction by Jennifer Haymore. This one was sent to me for review, and it was book 3 in a series, but they said you could read them. Thought I was going to sneeze, but I didn't, which was a relief. You could read them out of order, sort of. So I did. I enjoyed it. I found the first 100 pages really slow, and weren't particularly interesting. Then it kind of picked up and I enjoyed it a bit more, but definitely not my favourite Regency book. I gave it 3 out of 5. And then later in the month I picked up the first book in that series, The Duchess Hunt. Same with this one. There were moments where I didn't really like the premise of it and what was going on, but overall it was enjoyable and it was a light, fun read, so I also gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. Then my dog is on my bed and I think she's just about, Rosie, what are you doing? What are you doing? You want to be in my video? No. Come here. Okay, she's decided to desert me. Rosie. Rose. No, she's not interested. I read Take Me On by Katie McGarry. I actually read this on my Kindle because I was approved by NetGalley, and then I had this on pre-order, so the hardback arrived when it came out. But yeah, I enjoyed this, but it wasn't my favourite of the series. Yeah, but it was Katie McGarry, so I love her writing. I love her characters. With this one, I just didn't feel the connection between West and Hayley as much as I did between, say, Isaiah and Rachel from Crash Into You, or Echo and Noah from Pushing the Limits. But I still really enjoyed this. I mean, her books are still the best YA contemporary out of anyone. So yeah, but I still thoroughly enjoyed that. And the last physical book that I read was A Fall from India Place by Samantha Young. This was one that was sent to me to take part in the blog tour for, and apparently it's part of a series, but Hyacus has only published this one. Apparently she was with a different publisher for the others. I'm not entirely sure. This one was interesting because, again, I found the first 100 pages of this really boring. I found the protagonist boring. I found her uninteresting. Also should say that I gave Take Me On 4.5 out of 5 stars. You can tell like I'm not entirely with it right now. Yeah, I found the protagonist really, really boring. And then with this whole thing about her past relationship with this guy and how he sort of abandoned her, and then bam, he comes back. I found her quite irritating. I could feel for her, but then where I differed from her is that I wouldn't have accepted him coming back in like his sort of reasons, I guess. I would have wanted more from that than what she was given. Also, I wish that we had his point of view, because I felt like we really didn't get to know Marco at all. They're supposed to be like, they were these really great friends when they were teenagers, and then they have sex, and then like literally he just disappears. He goes back to America, and then she's left with the fallout. So I feel like if we had his side, it would have been more well-rounded. I didn't feel this supposed chemistry, this supposed connection between the two. I think it fell kind of flat. I mean, it did pick up, but it wasn't the greatest for me. I ended up giving it about 3 out of 5. The beginning especially really irritated me, because if it is like part of a series, which I think it is, but each book should be a standalone. But literally, the 30 pages, you just get a list of all her family and her friends. It's literally just name, comma, name, comma, name, comma, name, comma. And I was like, I don't know who these people are. I would rather have met them gradually, so I built up this picture instead of being given a list of her family. I thought I was going to be given like her weight and her shoe size, and I just didn't care for how that was sort of brought up. But yeah, that's all the physical books that I read in May. So on to the books on my Kindle, which I have a list of here. The first one that I read was Fight For You by Megan Vernon. This was one that I requested from NetGalley because I thought it sounded good. It's a new adult sort of romance. I hated it. I don't like to bash books by any stretch of the imagination, but there was nothing redeeming about this book whatsoever. I really, really disliked it. I do have a blog review up already. I will link it below. I just didn't enjoy it. Our main character is male, and his name is Nicky, and he's the daughter of like an Italian son of an Italian mobster, and his father's pushing him to take over the family business. First of all, his surname Ragusa, I literally think the author must have got that name off a bottle of ragu sauce, because it's just a terrible name. And basically he sees this girl fighting with her boyfriend, and she runs off, and he wants to protect her, so he follows her like a stalker in his car, and he knocks her off her motorbike. Instead of calling an ambulance, he picks her up. She could have been severely injured, she could have broken her neck, but no, he picks her up, puts her in his car, and takes her to the hospital. He then pretends to be her fiance, watches over her. Very creepy. We didn't get a list of her injuries, but then he leaves her at the hospital, goes to work, like, a couple of hours later. She shows up at his work, slaps him, and then they suddenly end up having sex in his office. Like, literally, she's just been in the hospital, bam, shows up at his office, and they just have sex. They haven't even exchanged a proper conversation, and they're doing it in his office. This is really awkward to talk about, but it's a real bane of my existence. And then, again, awkward to talk about, but I'm really worried about the message that this book sends to people, because literally, she just goes, I'm on the pill. Like, that solves all of life's problems. You know, we don't have protection, doesn't matter, I'm on the pill. That's not the point. The pill doesn't protect you from sexual diseases. Like, I feel like I'm going off into a sex ed class, but like, some of these books I really worry about the message that they are sending, because that is just messed up. So yeah, then bam, they're in this relationship, and then he gets into like this sort of turf war with her ex, and his followers, and then nothing is developed properly at all. It just goes from, it's just a terrible book. I didn't enjoy this at all. It's just not well thought out, it's not developed, characters sucked, and I hate to say it in such a blunt way, but I had no redeeming thoughts about this book whatsoever. So I'm sorry to put it so bluntly, but that's kind of how I felt. The next book that I read was a little e-novella from Katie McGarry, and that's Red at Night. I read this before Take Me On because I was excited for Take Me On, so I thought I'd read this little e-novella first. I enjoyed this, but it wasn't as good as her full-length novels. It's about a girl who's kind of an outcast at school. She's been bullied because she's poorer. They found her once like looking through the trash, and so they call her Trash Can Girl. And she hangs out at the cemetery, and there she sort of befriends this guy, and he was in an accident that sort of changed his perspective on life. And he used to be like a really, really popular guy, but now he finds himself feeling disconnected from the people that were actually his friends. His sort of perspective has changed, and so they find themselves in an unlikely friendship and then sort of relationship. It was good, but I feel like it's hard to explain, but this book moved slowly and too fast at the same time. I say that because the writing felt kind of slower than what I'm used to with Katie McGarry, but then the relationship kind of speedballed, if this makes any sense to you guys. I hope it does. It's not really making much sense to me, but I still enjoyed it, and I think I gave it 3.5 out of 5. And then the last book that I read on my Kindle was Unbearable by Sherry Gammon. This is the third book in her Port Fair series. The first one is Unlovable, one of my favourite new adult contemporary books. It's just so amazing. If you haven't read it, you really should. The second book was Unbelievable. Really enjoyed that. Didn't quite reach Unlovable, but it was still fantastic. And then Unbearable, for fans of the series, is kind of an anticipated. Well, all of them were anticipated, but this one in particular, because it's the character called Booker. It's his story, and he's been in all. He was in the previous two, and he was sort of like the other main characters. This is getting confusing. Their sort of best friends, and so it was nice to see his story. Sherry actually contacted me asking me if I wanted to be part of the blog tour for this, because I was part of the blog tour for Unbelievable last year, because she knows I love her series so much. So she sent me sort of the advanced copy. Really, really enjoyed Unbearable. Booker has sort of left law enforcement to pursue like being a lawyer, and then he hires this secretary, and it seems like she has a sort of dark past. She's escaped from an abusive relationship, and so and Booker has had terrible sort of relationships in the past. So both are sort of reluctant to enter a relationship, but like you see the attraction and the chemistry there, and then just as it's starting to look good, her past sort of comes back. It was really, really good. It kind of reminded me of Safe Haven by Nicholas Sparks, but I thoroughly thoroughly enjoyed the book, and I highly recommend the series for anyone who hasn't read it yet, and I gave that 4.5 out of 5 stars. So that's everything that I read in May. I hope you had a great reading month in May. I hope my lighting's not too whacked out. I mean, I'm really, really pale, and then I'm wearing like a pale yellow top, and then the light is right there, so God knows how this turned out. And now I've got hiccups. Oh my god, this was a terrible video. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and sticking with me, and I'll see you next time. Happy reading.